Hello, family. This is your girl, Liz Kissoon, and I am so thankful and happy to be here with you guys today. I know I'm tuning in a little bit later than I normally do, but I'm happy and just so thankful that I have the ability to actually be here with you guys today. Today, you guys, I just want to share with you guys and encourage you guys to live out the desires of your heart. So many times we want to wait for the perfect circumstance in order to do or to be whoever it is that we feel that we're called to be. We want to move, we want to wait before we actually start living like the person that we feel like we are inside of our heart, before we actually start to take those risks to actually to fulfill those desires of our heart. And today, you guys, I want to encourage you to walk out in the person that God's created you to be. Walk out in that person and how God's, whatever desires He's placed on your heart, just start to go towards that. If you've had the passion in your life, you're like, you know what, I want to give more, but I don't know with my circumstance how I can give more because financially I'm not in the specific place or the realm that I really want to be in order to give more. Well, I want to encourage you to do it anyway. That's a part of having faith. Do it anyway. Do those desires of your heart. See if you can't give that big dollar amount that it might be that you want to, see how you can actually make that happen. What are ways that you can actually create the desires of your heart to come into this realm and this dimension? So many times we want to just wait for every single thing, and we're scared to even live out those desires of our heart because of our own mentality of lack and poverty. But today, you guys, I want to encourage you guys to live out those desires of your heart and just be able and be willing to do whatever it is that you feel heavy on your heart, no matter what the circumstance is, no matter what's going on around you. Do it anyway and go after it with a vengeance to say, you know what, this is what I feel that I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this no matter what. I'm going to give no matter what. I'm going to love in this type of manner no matter what. These are things that are important to me, and I'm going to start to live like this person. It's so crazy how when you actually take that step or that leap of faith, when it is that you might feel like you're like, you know what, God, I really want to be able to do more for my parents. If that is a desire on your heart, but you're you think in your mind that in order for you to do more for your parents, you need to be this multi-millionaire, or you need to be in this certain position or this stature in order to do that. But ask God and even just get creative and think about all your resources. How can you do that right now? How can you do more for your parents right now? If you say, you know what, the desires of my heart are to travel. I want to be I want to have more loving circumstances. I want to be more happy. I want more happy experiences. That's the desires of my heart. Well, think about how can you allow yourself to be around a certain, how can you, if you want a loving experience, how can you place yourself with people that are loving? How can you do things that you feel heavy on your heart? And I promise you that once you start to follow your heart and God is leading you and directing you, but your heart is not coming from a place of lack, because our heart, and I'm going to tell you guys, the way that our heart is set up, when we're not seeking God to fill that void, we're going to seek for man, which is relationships or materialistic things to fill those voids. But when you are seeking God to fill those voids of your heart, I promise you that every other thing that comes out of you is just going to be pure love. So whatever circumstances or whatever things that it is that you truly want, it's just amazing to see and to watch how God is just showing up in my life, how He's allowing me to really walk out on this level of how I can actually be there more for my family. God is continually showing me and fulfilling the desires of my heart. It is such an amazing blessing. It is such an amazing experience to watch how God, one of my biggest desires of my heart, and I'm sorry, you guys, but one of my biggest desires of my heart since I was 16 years old was I asked for God, to unify my family, because I knew that I didn't have control over, cousins, aunties, and uncles and all those things. So I really just prayed. I have a family of 11 siblings and, pretty much 5 parents. And I just pray for God to unify our family, that when we were together, that we saw each other as one, no matter which branch that we came from. I prayed I prayed from a 16-year-old child that God would just move and do that. And what I did on my end of it was I started to live out and walk out in those things. So when I wanted birthday parties or anything like that, I would request for all my siblings to be there. I would do things according to what I had in my heart and according to whatever it is, that promise that God has shown me. I would start to make decisions based on that. And, it's just amazing to see, how God has transformed my family, how literally now I have like all of my siblings and they like, we talk to each other, and it's like, it's amazing. Normally you have siblings that don't speak to each other in weeks, months, years. And our family like speaks together all the time from every single branch. Some of them are not even blood related, but they're related by love. And it's one of the most beautiful and magnificent things. So I want to encourage you guys to start to make decisions based on the desires of your heart. And I promise you that God will show up every single time, because if he gave you those desires, he gave you those desires for a reason. I want to encourage you guys to be bold and to start walking out in that person that God has called you and created you to be. Those desires are on your heart because that is how he designed you. You just need to have the faith to match it. Stop worrying so much on what you might have at that very moment and start to think about what everything that God has in store to you. Of course, I always recommend having wisdom. Be wise with whatever it is that God's given you, and always seek guidance and counseling in your directions. One of the things that I always do is if I'm having a difficult time with something, I take it to God. And then after I take it to God, I'm praying, I'm meditating, and then I go hear my counsel. I have certain people that I seek for counseling to see, to tell them about the situation or whatever the case may be, or whatever concerns that I might have on my heart, to see how to handle those situations. And then I'm like, okay, just kind of aligning everything, and then that's how I actually move and what I do and how I move. But you guys, I want to encourage you to really seek out and live out the desires of your heart, that this life is yours to dominate, and this life is yours to dominate at like a high, abundant level. The amount of joy that I've been feeling and the amount of happiness that I've been feeling, it has been amazing to really and truly watch God move in my life, and how he has been just literally fulfilling the desires of my heart. And all it took was me just taking these leap of faith. Sometimes things might not be comfortable in us going after the desires of our heart, but guess what? Just do it anyway. And I promise you that God is going to show up every single time. Even, one of the big things to me, is like honoring my mother and father and being able to do more for them. So it's like now I'm like, okay, God, well, what can I do for them? How can I do things for them? And part of me even just living out my God-ordained purpose, mission of my destiny is to fulfill that desire of my heart, to be a product of what my parents raised me and created me, what they really instilled inside of me. I understand how fortunate and how blessed I am to be gifted with my parents, and and that's what I want to give back. So part of the desires of my heart is to make my family proud and to walk out in how they raised me. One of the things that my dad, my father always used to tell me was, he would say, that we were God's gift to him, that God just allowed him to borrow us. Like, he's like, you don't actually belong to me, you belong to God, but God gave you to me so that I can help raise you and mold you and guide you in the direction that God, has called you to go, so that when you become old enough, you can walk out in your purpose and your mission of why God created you. And so I just really want to encourage you guys, and so even my father taking that movement, that's why it's like one of my desires in my heart has always been to do for my family. And I want to encourage you guys can do this, you got this, and you are called to live in abundance. And that when you actually start to understand that and realize that, I promise you that it will just flow to you. God has called us to live and to do exceedingly and abundantly things. Like he's called us to move like that and to do that for us. So I want to encourage you guys today to take that leap of faith and to go after and to start actually living out the desires of your heart. even if you might not know, or you're like, well, this isn't actually the quite desire because you've placed certain price tags on it. But I promise you, just to do what you can do with what you have right now in this very moment, and you're going to watch God just show up. I thank you guys so much, just for tuning in. And, before I go, you guys, I want to tell you guys that your time is the most valuable thing that you have. So make sure that wherever you're investing your time, you're looking at, what is my ROI? What is my return on my investment? Because time is more valuable than money. So I want to encourage you guys to invest your time wisely today. Show the people that you love them. Tell people, if you care about them, that you care about them. Make somebody feel good today. Even if it's just smiling at them or just going a little bit extra out of your way today to show somebody that you love and you care for them. I thank you guys so much for tuning in with me, and have a wonderful and prosperous day. Bye. Take care.